being out on the bike is liberating. Just feeling like wind in my hair. Never ever 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 did I think I'd be going out every day doing 9,000 miles in a year. And never ever 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 did I think I'd be doing it myself without my dad supporting me.
Because Ellis was born 15 weeks early, which is very premature, you know, you start off with this baby who isn't quite the normal baby that you were expecting. We were just like wanted him to go to nursery and then to go to school, and we thought it was a massive achievement for Ellis to go to mainstream school. I mean, Ellis is 26 now, and I can't believe the things that he has achieved in his life, to be honest. And then it was really when he was coming up to being about 1 that, you know, he still couldn't really sit up. He was a bit wobbly and he'd fall over. And we found out just after his first birthday. We went to the consultant and he just said to me, so there is actually a name for this. And I always remember that day that when he gave us the name, when he said cerebral, I mean, I just fell apart. I'd never known anybody with cerebral palsy, and I didn't know what to expect, and you always expect the worst. You have these pictures of wheelchairs and people not able to hold their heads up and lots of different things. It was something you didn't really want to accept, and you did need a lot of help through it, but you do get to the other side and there is still great joy, and wouldn't be without him. He always used to say I'd love to be able to cycle, and he had a trike when he was probably about 3 maybe, and he used to go round the close and things like that, but I never ever really saw him, you know, going off cycling by himself, and it was just something that I didn't think of.
Take my brakes off. In normal times, I'm a producer at the BBC World Service. However, since lockdown began, I've taken up hand cycling. Now, I'm a wheelchair user living with cerebral palsy, so I've hardly got any balance, and my hand-eye coordination is absolutely abysmal. I basically got quadriplegic cerebral palsy. So what does that mean to the layperson? It means that it affects all 4 limbs. So I've got problems with my movement, and naturally, if I was walking around, I'd be like that. That's the way my cerebral palsy had me being. That's the way I literally had me right hand up all the time. But no, growing up with cerebral palsy, I attended a conduct education centre, and they taught me the different movements and the different things that I needed to do to better control my movements. So not have my hand up there all the time, but have my hand there centralised between my legs. And the triumph! I still remember doing that for the first time with a kid when I was 13. It was a strange moment. For years and years and years I've been like, no, not going to put my socks on, not going to put my socks on, and then, hey presto, there I was one day, able to put my socks on, and for about 6 months afterwards, every social worker, every person I met had to watch me take my socks on and off. It's such a big deal to me. It meant so much to me. Like, the average person would be like, what the fuck? 13, 14-year-old able to put my socks on, what do you mean? But actually, for me as a disabled person, it was something that was a deeply, deeply big deal, because it was the pathway to something a bit better, you know, than I'd imagined prior to that. And, you know, things like I've never been able to put shoes with laces on, so all my shoes have to have Velcro straps, like this one here. And this isn't the difficult foot, this is the easy foot. Because weirdly, even though my right hand is dodgy, my right foot is actually okay. My my left foot is dodgy. Growing up, there was two things that, if I'm honest with you, I'd wanted to do. One was making coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker. I have coffee every day with my breakfast, for my breakfast. And I thought, you know, coffee and making coffee, particularly dealing with hot liquids as somebody with very little hand-eye coordination is going to be really difficult. But now, I make my coffee every day, and I enjoy it. The other was cycling. Getting on my bike, well, where do I start? It can be a challenge at times, and you do fall off and things do go wrong. So, first and foremost, I'll get into the garage. Got to make sure my hand cycle isn't too far away from my chair as well, because if it's too far away, then when I get in my chair to put the hand cycle on, I'll make sure I've got my gloves on. I put the hand cycle, clip the hand cycle on. Sometimes that takes several times. And I'll turn the battery on.
Start workout.
And then I turn, and I try to turn, and I try to turn to get out the garage. And when I get out the garage, I've got to pull the garage down. Unfortunately as well, that usually means garage door falls on me. Then I can be on my cycle and on my way of doing things. The guys who make my wheelchairs, and made my wheelchairs for the last 15 years to get around my house, to get around work, I usually use an electric wheelchair. The guys who made those chairs for the last 15 years are called Da Vinci Mobility over in Liverpool. And they, what I didn't realise at the time, they're also one of the biggest manufacturers of hand cycles in the UK.
Do you want to come on in? Okay, so this is Da Vinci Mobility. I've known Alice for a long time, since he was about 10 in fact. Over the years we've made lots of chairs for Alice. He told me one day that he'd been riding a hand bike exerciser in a gym and felt as though he should be able to cycle. Now I was a bit concerned that his movements with both arms together would have meant that he couldn't really steer it. He came in here one day and we got him outside on a hand bike. Quite surprisingly, he did really well on it, even straight away. In 1974, I was involved in a car accident and the car turned over. I was trapped inside the car, but the car came down on the back of my shoulders and I was crushed in the seat and broke my spine. Got no sensation or movement below my waist, which meant obviously I can't walk anymore. After I got over the trauma of the accident and the depression that followed, you know, and I got into wheelchair sports, that completely changed my life. I was a tool maker. But because I couldn't go back to that job, I ended up going to the drawing office. Because of my engineering background, I was looking at wheelchairs, and in those days you only got one chair, very, very basic wheelchairs. And to play wheelchair sport, you ended up modifying them. I saw some Americans playing basketball at one of the tournaments in wheelchairs that they'd made out of aluminium tubing. So basically I came back from that tournament, did a design for the frame, got it drawn up, got it welded together, and then that chair led to me making one for somebody else, and then somebody else. It carried on from there. We went on from that to doing everyday chairs, and then eventually we ended up becoming Da Vinci Mobility. He's done it absolutely amazingly well with it. It's made a huge difference, I think, to him and his physical well-being, I think, and mental well-being.
I mean, I'm really proud of him, and I mean, the first time I saw him going off on his bike, it's just like, you know, tears in your eyes welled up that he's off doing something that, one, you never thought he'd be able to do, and it's just that freedom it gives him, really.
My dad said to me just after we come out buying my hand cycle, he said to me, "You just spent £1,700 on something you're not really going to use. Is it worth it? It's a lot of money." And at that point, you know what? It made me think, yeah, I'm going to make sure it's bloody worth it. I'm going to use it as much as I can.